Welcome in, everyone. This is the Binge Empire podcast. I am your host, Dave, joined by my fellow co host, Paul. And today, we are here to discuss season 4 of Amazon Prime's hit TV show, Invincible, specifically episodes 1 through 3. I just have to say, to jump right into things, I am a big Invincible fan. I'm probably the biggest on the podcast, and I watch a ton of reactions for this show, like obsessively watch reactions for this show. I think this, honestly, hot take right off the start, might be my favorite superhero show of the modern era. Like,
Oh,
over the boys, it might be recency bias, and this is a first take that I'm bringing live to the podcast, but again, maybe recency bias, but the consistency that this show brings out is unbelievable. I feel like when we have the boys podcast, obviously we all gush over the boys and we love the boys, but we always have like some complaints here and there, and sometimes those complaints can really take us out of it. But for this show, I don't like, I'll have complaints, but it doesn't take away from the story itself and just how good the plot of Invincible is. I personally am just like such a big fan of this show. Love starting off the podcast on a hot take, but I'll quickly hand it over to Paul to give his thoughts on, Invincible as a whole. This is I think our second time covering this on the podcast, at
mhm.
least from season 2 maybe, but season 3 definitely. So yeah, let's give his thoughts on this series as well as these first 3 episodes.
I thought you were gonna go early hot take. This is the best season so far, which I was
Oh,
like,
no,
that's
no,
not
no.
that's not a hot take at all. I
No, no,
mean,
no.
phenomenal start to this season, and you're making an argument at least for best superhero show because it is so consistent. The only complaint for this show was really season 3. The animation aspect of things, which the voice acting is always top tier. So,
Yep.
I think it's up there. I totally agree with you. I love jumping back in. It didn't feel like that long of a wait since season 3. So, I watched the recap, but I still remembered everything. It was still fresh, and jumping back in felt so good. It literally picks up like from the remnants of Conquest's destruction, and it feels like didn't skip a beat, right? Because the last thing we saw was arguably the best episode of Invincible ever.
Yeah.
Your favorite episode of 2025? That's a tough.
It's probably up there because I guys, I can't stress this enough. I've watched like tens of maybe 20 reactions to that final episode of season 3 with Conquest's introduction. I still to this day am quoting the "I'm so lonely," all the other Viltrumites. Like that line resonates me so much. Take it to your grave. Amazing performance. And like you said, all the voice actors, it's a star-studded cast. And this season you can obviously hear it in their voices too, of all the famous characters that are being brought into the show for new characters or some, obviously recurring characters. But this is probably the most star-studded animated show in terms of cast that I can think of in recent times. Literally anyone from like comedy actors, action actors, anything in between, they have them all signed up, and they all absolutely crush it. So
I feel like some of these are A-list actors that they're coming in and they're like, "Hey, do you wanna have 15 lines this season spread
right.
across a few episodes, and that's about it?" Um, like,
Azula's character, like I don't even remember her being relevant in season 2, and I just
mhm,
only hear Azula for the scientist assistant. That's it.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, no, totally. It's so good. Let's just jump right in because we got a lot of coverage today because we got 3 episodes here. So, like we said, starting off episode 1 right where we left off. Episode 1 called "Making the World a Better Place," and that's what Mark's trying to do. We're seeing that he's still going around saving people every day, but the looks that they give him are just of disgust. So he feels like he never deserves a night off. He says, "You don't understand how these people look at me, mom. Like I gotta go do something. I gotta change their mind because they just absolutely hate me right now."
Yeah, I totally feel for Mark, and I've said it ever since season 2. I feel like the animators have gone out of their way ever since season 2 and the whole fallout with his father to purposely put like bags under his eyes to kind of like emphasize how tired he is all the time, and it's only been getting worse since his clash with his father. So it really hurts to see him feel so down on himself and to feel like he needs to make up for everything that he thinks he's done, even though obviously Omni Man was the first cause, Conquest was the second, like, and Angstrom, all of them are not necessarily his fault. He blames himself because maybe he didn't deal the finishing blow on all these people, but you got to feel for him. He is in such a moral dilemma within himself, and we can see that at the end of episode 3 for sure, or episode 2 at least. And I hate to see how it's affecting the family. Obviously, him and his brother are going at it. Oliver is a teenager. He looks great. I love the glow up from him. It's and the fact that they're purposely making him more pale to emphasize that his, I think it's Thraxian side is like kind of dying off, and his human side is, or at least his Viltrum side is staying relevant. And sure, he's a teen. He has things he wants to do, like play video games and not constantly be working. It's totally understandable. But Mark is kind of not seeing that Oliver as a kid. And then Oliver's childhood is not like any others because it's going to be so quick. He's going to be involved in all these superhero fights. So he really does more than anyone need to savor these like childhood moments. And Mark in season 1, I think obviously would have let him slide here, but because he has that pressure of regret, he's bringing it to the family, and we see them beefing a little bit, but the love is still there for sure. You can feel it. Like Oliver does have sympathy for Mark.
Yeah, yeah, it gets squashed pretty quickly. Mark comes out and says, "I'm sorry," which, you get where he's coming from. But man, dude, Oliver's working way harder than I was when I was a
Yeah, that
teenager.
is
So,
for sure. That is for sure.
so he deserves a break. Play those video games,
Hmm.
Oliver. You deserve it.
Yeah.
So we also get Cecil getting the old Guardians to join back up, but it is still established that Brit is in charge. Rex has a moment where he tries to say, Cecil, I think we need a more strategic mind. But Cecil's like, hey, man, you crossed me, and there's going to be consequences.
Yeah, I think this is just purposely just specifically setting up the relationship, one, between Cecil and Rex and where they're at after they have left the Guardians, but two, also the tension between Britt and Rex, because although it doesn't necessarily escalate here, Cecil lets him down, and there's not even really any words left between Britt and Rex, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they both just end up walking away. But I think this makes it a point for Rex in his heart to maybe hold a little bit of resentment towards Britt rather than actually wanting to listen to him and his advice. Sure, Rex is the smartest probably of, it's also so weird calling him Rex, I have to say, and not just robot, but it is weird. He is the smartest of the group, and obviously that can carry you a long way. But for right now, I think Cecil is right. You have to earn that trust back. I'll get into it a little bit more, but I've always been Team Cecil. Even when Mark and him were beefing, I was always Team Cecil. And I think Cecil is right here specifically. But Cecil, my man, you fucked up, and we'll get to it. But I think Cecil did a good job here, at least specifically with handling this whole argument. And I like how he kind of grabbed Rex by the shoulder and was like, "Don't worry, like it's still a chance to happen." He offers the option of it in the future. So I think Cecil did a great job here specifically.
We had some great Cecil discussions last episode, or I'm sorry, last
Yeah,
season
yeah.
about who was right, who's on whose
Right,
side. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of
for
fun.
sure.
Something else interesting about this situation too, as well, is the Guardians are all still nervous about, the contingency plan for Mark that he had last season, about how he basically had plans to de incapacitate him and like take him out. And they're like, how do you know, or how do we know that you don't have them for us? And they're like, he does have them. Cecil does have
I
them, but
love that line because it is so Batman. I've been such in a DC rabbit hole recently, especially with the new Absolute comics that have been coming out for DC. But the thing about Batman is that no matter what universe, no matter what multiverse, he's in the Justice League, he has contingency plans just in case any of them turn evil. And that's always at the beginning of it all a big gripe with the group. Superman's like, why do you have kryptonite? Why do you have all of our weaknesses stored here? And it's hard to see, but it might be like it's Cecil's kind of way of maybe not showing love, but he is just a worry Nelly. And I think no matter what you tell him, he is just so experienced that he is just going to have these no matter what. Again, and it's good that they brought up, like, how do you know that he doesn't have them for all of us? I think the big point of contention was that he's always talking to Mark as if he is the biggest threat, which he is. He is the strongest person on Earth, or potentially can be the strongest person on Earth. But if he has these contingency plans for everyone, even for Boss Baby, it's like that's just who Cecil is. You're gonna have to learn to accept it, and sure, they'll always be there, but it's just a last resort kind of thing. And again, it's Batman. It's just who he is. You're not going to change it. I don't think Cecil's necessarily wrong, but I like how the Guardians approach it. Just they realize it's just who he is. He has contingencies for all of us.
And can you really blame Cecil? Because Omni Man
I,
turned on
I
them,
know it's still
and
the
he
thing.
was their ace in the hole.
Mhm.
So, like, what else is he supposed to do? So,
Exactly. And they've done a great job of dissecting their relationship too back in season 2, of showing how, Cecil at first didn't really trust him, and then over the course of many battles, they did develop, or at least Cecil's maybe never vocally said it, but at least in his heart believed that Nolan was a good guy and could trust him. And then when all that gets flipped on its head, Cecil's going to revert back to the person who he was, and thinking he should have never trusted Omni Man in the beginning. He should have never trusted Mark from the beginning. But he's working through those emotions for sure.
yeah, lots of complicated characters in this
Hmm.
show.
Hmm.
One of those complicated characters is Dinosaurus, right? That was his name
Yeah.
here. So he seemed a little formidable. He calls in Mark. He gets the jump on him, and he has a cool motivation. I liked that he liked the death and destruction of last season, and that it was helping the planet from extinction and all that
Hmm.
stuff. That was just a cool villain side of things. But kind of turns out to be a Jekyll and Hyde situation, because he Mark all of a sudden sees this. He looks like a stoner, if I'm
Yeah.
honest, in the way he talks. He's like, "Come on, man." Um, and this innocent guy, and Mark doesn't know what to do, because Dinosaurus is the other one. If he can't control him, should he just kill this guy? And he thinks about it. He starts squeezing his neck, but Britt gets there before Mark can actually kill him. But right away, they're showing you Mark is not in a good spot.
And is he wrong? It's like, with what he's been through, we're constantly listing out the villains, but man, with everything he's going through, of course I'm glad he didn't do it. He was probably right to not do it. But Mark is definitely in a complicated place, man. I just really just want to emphasize that you can't really blame him for what he's gone through. But in terms
No,
of like the
not at all.
dinosaur itself, Dinosaurus, I'm obviously, with how this show operates, we're seeing villains from season 1 even returning from in this season, so I'm pretty sure Dinosaurus is going to come back, and it feels like he should have a pretty, maybe not prominent role in the war itself, but we know that dinosaurs were intelligent. That's the one thing that Invincible has changed about modern history, is that dinosaurs were like smart and communicative, and were just extinct
Mhm.
by the meteors in the day. But I wonder if this will have any ties to like like a subplot in the future. They're always dropping these seeds. We know about the ghoul that always is appearing, the misogynistic mummy that's appearing
Yeah.
every season. They're building them up, and again, because this is such a specific character in a dinosaur, I think there will be a link to some kind of, maybe time travel thing. We've already seen Angstrom send Mark back to the dinosaurs, so yeah, really cool.
We Yeah, we also get another, villain that seemingly shows up for 5 minutes this episode. So, and I feel like she's gonna come back. So
Mhm.
I do have high hopes that Dinosaurus will have another moment in the spotlight here, because I don't know why. He just clicked with me. I liked him. There's so many cool villains in this show, so many unique ones, and I just like that
Yeah,
guy.
for sure.
Oh man, this scene stinks, right? So Eve and Mark go to have dinner with Eve's parents, and just the dad,
I just
the best the best character in the show, man. The best character in the show.
even when he's trying to be sympathetic and like defend his daughter, I just want to murder him. He is
Yeah.
easily one of the worst human beings in any show of all time. It's just I cannot stand this man. for 3 seasons he's talking shit on his daughter, or at least like makes it seem like he hates his daughter because she's super powered. And then all of a sudden here he's going to be like, "Oh, she's super powered and different and I hate you because you put her in." Like, you're the worst.
Mhm.
Even when you try to make
Yeah.
sense for justifying your means, I still hate you. And that's all I have to say. I just I really cannot stand this guy.
There was one point where I audibly went,
Yeah,
"Ugh," in real life
100%.
because he's talking at the dinner table and he's like, "Oh, Eve is always goes through some shit, but she always finds her way on top. She must get it from me."
Oh my
And I'm like,
god, I wanted to just get out of here. Who
I
are you?
was like, "Is that how you see yourself, dude?" Um, but then he makes the other point to Mark, which you already talked about, Dave, that Eve has only been in 2 situations where she's almost died, and both of those situations involved him. So maybe think about it, which Mark definitely does think about it, which doesn't seem like an ongoing theme. Maybe it's in the back of his head, but with the end credit scene of episode 3, you know, I don't know if Mark and Eve are going anywhere anytime soon. So
I genuinely thought that Mark was going to break up with Eve from coming in from talking with the father. I don't know if you got that vibe, but I was going to be so mad if he was going to break up with her right there.
yeah, I was like, why are you ever gonna let this dad dictate how you think and
Exactly.
operate? I don't know. So
My last
it was
comment for that
frustrating.
scene is also, I've always sympathized for Eve's mom. I still do, but it did, of course, rub me the wrong way that she's projecting to Eve. She has a conversation with Eve about how, oh, sometimes you kind of just settle. Mark is a great
Yeah.
person. What are you talking? I don't care if he was involved in the Chicago incident, the Angstrom incident. I do not care. He is a superhero. He is out there saving lives every day. And you're going to tell your daughter that she's settling? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So mom deducted a little bit. I've always had sympathy for her, but she's projecting here, so it's not too far of a knock. But I was definitely getting heated. It's like, your parents, you need to just do something,
Yeah.
rearrange their molecules and not like to the atom level, and just make sure they're good.
Betsy, our show is on. Like,
And then
shut up, dude.
she is like, "Yeah, sure, I'll stop this important conversation with my wife or my daughter to go watch TV."
How Eve turned out like she did, I'll never know.
So happy, she's amazing.
On the other side of the parent relationship of Eve and Mark, we still have Paul and Debbie. They are still a thing. Yeah, sexy name, Paul. Don't really love the character,
He's
the
fine.
the weird stepdad, not stepdad yet,
Yeah.
but he tries not to step on their toes. But Oliver and Mark, they know, they accept him, and they know he's trying to be respectful, but they're just like, you know what, dude, you're part of the family, it's fine. So they kind of have short interaction there, and then real quick we can just cover as well Debbie bringing Oliver to get his new suit, the one that fits him, but also keeps the logo.
Great scene, honestly. I really love this scene. I think Oliver was working on his suit back in season 3, right before the conquest stuff, and he did, in his more childish form, want to be Kid Omni Man, and obviously everyone kind of told him, it's a little too soon for that. Maybe change the name.
Yeah.
But I think they did a really good job here of showing that, sure, Oliver is taking the name straight from a person, a villain that destroyed the world, but he's going to make it his own. I just thought this was really powerful. The flashback was awesome, although I was thinking in my head of the flashback that even back then Nolan had red flags. He's just like, oh, this suit does make me look powerful and strong. It's like, is that what a superhero should be saying right here? Like, he's like, oh, that idiot immortal sends me to the schmuck of a tailor over here. And I'm like, this guy, Debbie, what did you see in this guy before you had Mark? Like, what could have possibly been the conversations that he could have swooned her? He just felt like a
Yeah.
brick wall, but really love this scene. I like this for Oliver a lot. Digging the new suit. Not too much else to comment there.
Yeah, I mean, it goes so much deeper than you think, oh, just change the logo. But to Oliver, the way he explains, I've been through so much with this on my chest that I feel like it's a part of me
Mhm.
now, and I'm like, "Damn, Oliver, last season we had to stop you from killing people, now all of a sudden you're getting deep,
Right. It took
like,
a
good for
conquest
you."
bitch slap to put him in place.
I mean, he grows up quick, but he's also maturing quickly too,
Yes.
so that's good to see.
Mhm.
This is the other villain we get introduced to. I say quote unquote villain because she attacks, but she kind of had good motives.
Mhm.
And I didn't see a name. I was just calling her like Valkyrie because she kind of looks like one.
Good name, good
And
name.
yeah, right. And she is drawn to this power, which is, a power plant. And she said she could feel it from light years away and she needs it for her home planet. And, Mark and Eve eventually come take care of her by an Eve punch.
Mhm.
That's what takes her out, which was interesting. But not only that, we also learn that Eve's powers are starting to go. This is when she's really seeing them just kind of melt after being formed. So cool scene, cool villain. Eve said, without her staff, she just kind of went down. I'm a little curious
Yes.
if, with episode 3, I assume everybody has watched, with the announcement that Eve is pregnant, is she getting some of this baby Mark strength potentially, but also
Oh.
messing with her powers?
Oh, I didn't take that's a great bring up there. I really like that because me and Alki were texting a little bit after he had watched the episodes and we're kind of like theory crafting a little bit. So out in the open, Eve's pregnant. This is an episode 1 to 3 recording. We're gonna have to, in order to do this segment, we need a theory craft from episode 3. But so looking at the whole picture, I had taken it that Eve's powers were being affected by the child because maybe the child has the same powers as her. And when she's trying to rearrange these molecules, the baby's, maybe trying to do it as well. And it's just messing with the flow. But this is where things of that theory just get turned on their head because, yes, she displayed super strength, which wasn't something that she had before. I I was kind of taking it, I guess, at the time before you had mentioned the idea of it just being Viltrumite blood maybe seeping into her, that her powers are kind of transforming into something entirely different. Like, and I really had no idea where to go from that. And now that I'm thinking that Viltrum's strength, it just totally makes sense that it could be the baby's genes infecting Eve. But it was confusing, man. And yeah, this, like you said, this was the first time she had physically seen her powers evaporating because we saw the clothes at the end of last season. We saw the coffee mug a little bit earlier and she had never picked up on those things. So to finally have her see it was really good to make sure that she's like aware that she's having issues with her power. But man, I really like that idea that maybe the Viltrum DNA is just infecting her and that she's gaining super strength because I truly wasn't sure of where the strength came from at the time. So I really like that call out.
I mean, to be fair, Eve could be completely right when she's saying, without her staff, she just kind of went down and she was weak, and that's where she got all of her power from. But I don't know. I feel like she lost her staff earlier in the fight and still wasn't knocked out. So it was something I didn't clock until episode 3 came
Mhm.
around, and then I was going back looking at my notes, and I was like, "Oh, maybe," like you said, maybe the baby is somehow changing her blood and adding Viltrumite blood and genes into it. Who knows?
I'll
But
ask you
something
though.
to look out for.
So with that theory in mind, do you think she will still retain her original powers? Like, do you think by the end of this, we'll say cocoon phase, that she is both super strong and a bit like able to manipulate things?
Yeah, in my head, I think I'm thinking that as soon as the baby is out, then
Everything's good.
she will go back to normal with her
Mhm.
powers. Um, maybe she, if our theory is right, maybe she does retain a little strength. But I could also see her powers being completely wiped out. And if I'm telling the truth, I'm really, really nervous that this baby is going to somehow kill Eve because
God. Oh man.
superhero babies and superpower babies are a threat, and both of this baby's parents just have next level power. So I don't know. I'm
I'm only going
nervous.
to counter that for my own safety and by saying that we've seen future variations of Eve and she's alive. But
True.
But Angstrom also did say he's been to like every timeline almost, and there was never an Oliver in any of the timelines. So you're killing me, Paul. Why
Ah.
did you have to bring me down like that? Don't bring me
Uh,
down.
dude, I love that you remember the small details like that. I
It's from
completely
all
forgot
the
about that.
reactions, bro. I'm telling you, I watched way too many.
All right. So at the same time as this is going down, we're also getting the Sequids flooding the streets of the city. We saw them underneath in the sewers, and then Russ, the main host, the astronaut, he says, "You know what? It's time." So they go to the surface, start taking over. Unbelievable amounts. Like the waves, like that was an ocean of Sequids.
Mhm.
That was I was not ready for that. So Brit is leading the Guardians, and they have a good plan. Separate the civilians with the disruptor. Get the parasites off them, and then TP them to safety.
Mhm.
So there is a lot of good, right? Our heroes are kicking ass
Mhm.
here. And seems like everything's going good. We're getting a little friction between Rex and Britt. Rex doesn't want to follow orders. He thinks he's smarter, which, he kind of has an argument. He might be a little bit smarter because there was people in the sewers. But also the big, red flag and the big thing that people kept talking about after this is that Mark kills Russ. He's in a situation.
Mhm.
The disruptor is not going to get to him in time. The integrity of the dome is decreasing. It's either wait and hope the dome holds, or risk it. And if one gets out, they're basically fucked again. Back to square one. So Mark makes a decision, and he obliterates Russ's skull.
It's crazy to think that the Sequids have been around for like seasons, and this is the storyline and how they're going to kind of quote unquote wrap it up. It's just amazing. We've seen it in this episode for all of last season. Mark is going through it. He has at the end of last season, he literally says, "If anyone messes with my family, I will not hesitate to kill them." This has the potential to become world ending. There, you like you said, there was like more than an ocean of sequids, and they kept emphasizing like as soon as that barrier breaks, the world is over. Like those things are just going to get out, and it's going to be impossible to catch every single one of them and defend ourselves. I mean, obviously, you want to save every life that you can. Mark made the right decision, man. And everyone eventually kind of sees that. Rex is the one I think that in the immediately is the one is like, why did you do that? But of course, he had kind of has
Mhm.
a change of heart over these next two episodes. But I was this whole episode wasn't like slow, but it was just like, we're getting back into things. We're setting up the world again. And then boom, last 5 minutes, we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger. And I was texting Paul because me, him, and Luke we had some plans in the evening to try and game. And I was like, I'm just going to watch one episode, just try and make sure that I can watch two episodes later. It became all three because of this ending. This is the kind of cliffhanger that makes you just click play and know how everyone's going to react, what's going to happen. Mark is in a dark place, man. That's all I really have to say. Again, I don't think he was wrong. I think he did the right thing. It's one versus billions. It's not. It sucks,
Yeah.
but and the way Cecil says it too. I'm probably jumping the gun again here too. But the way Cecil says it too, saying, he was an astronaut. Like he put his life on the line. This was kind of part of what he signed up for, and he's right. I mean, going to space is you risking your life to explore, and what you bring back with you is part of that. And it was great. This was a heart wrenching moment that had me, hearts. Everyone's paused. Not as silence speaks loudly here.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I was not expecting it because Mark was refusing to kill anybody, last season, and it bit him in the butt. So now he's not hesitating anymore.
Hmm.
Which you can say he hesitated a little bit there. I would say he was giving them a chance to get the disruptor to him, but end of the day, he saved the world. So wild that Cecil screenshotted all the blood exploding out the back of his head to look at. Never episode to be like, "Why you couldn't have just, like, right before
Yeah.
as he's holding it, like, the most gruesome shot of it,"
Right.
but the end scene of this episode, which I totally forgot they were end credit scenes,
Yes, yes.
skipped to episode
Oh
2.
boy.
I saw episode 2 end credit scene, and I was like, "Oh my god, how is this happening?" So to rewind,
Oh boy.
the end credit scene for here, what a one to skip.
I
It's
meant to text you
Don
too and be like, "Don't forget the end credit scenes." I totally meant to
Yep,
text you and I forgot.
totally forgot, but I went back and watched, and it was great because it was Donald telling Cecil that Conquest escaped, and it was wild to see Conquest be like, "Oh, the boy let me live."
Yeah.
Weak. And then just break out of everything, completely undermine that prison in that random desert and get out of there like it was nothing.
I freaking love Conquest. I freaking love him, man. We said it at the end of last season. Cecil's the biggest freaking idiot in the world. We said at the start of this podcast. Cecil is legitimately the biggest idiot in the freaking world for thinking he could one, subdue Conquest, and then two, expect to torture him for any amounts of information because this man is like, we say different, but if there could be like a different word for different that was an entirely another level, that's what I would want to describe Conquest as. It was so badass. We knew that Cecil's like, oh, it's 10 tons of reinforced steel. I don't give a shit about your reinforced steel. This is Conquest. We knew he was going to bust out of there. I need all of Conquest injected in my veins. This was so cool to see him lift that prison from the ground basically to escape.
Yeah. I mean, you can engineer the prison all you want, but Conquest isn't good at math, so he'll just break through all of it. Like
Math does not
he
apply to Conquest, that's for sure.
oh god, he's so good. I get excited when he's on screen. I'm
I
totally
wasn't
with
ready
you.
for him
He
to bust
adds
out this soon. I was so ready. I mean, seeing the end of it, I knew it was going to happen, but I was like, damn, we're really going to have this happen. But I'm so in because probably the best villain we've had so far in Invincible.
yeah, he adds something else to the show.
Mm.
It's amazing. All right, jumping into episode 2 called I'll Give You the Grand Tour. We do get a small glimpse of Conquest. It's a small
Yep.
screenshot during this entire episode, but we also, I feel like, learn a lot about him because of this. This is, of course, a lot of the Viltrumite backstory and history and how they came to their downfall. And I was shocked right away. We get a young Nolan teaching cadets.
Ugh.
Did not realize it was
Nope.
Nolan. I was like, "Who do they all look like
Yeah.
this?" Because I thought they looked like relatives. But the fact that it was a young Nolan, teaching young cadets about the history of Argyle the Great, the one who gave them purpose, also teaching them about the betrayer, the one who went against Argyle. And at the end of the day, he's like, "All right, 2 of you will die tomorrow, so bring some weapons." Just like
So
insane. And
insane.
then off of that, his parents come in and say, "Hey, congratulations, you're an adult now," and just beat the absolute piss out of him. His mom has something against him, I swear.
I so this episode was great aside from the Viltrum Empire stuff, like the Alan and Nolan stuff was all great. But because of this flashback, I'm easily willing to put this into top 5 episodes of Invincible already. And we haven't even seen maybe there's more to the backstory that we'll get, but this alone, this flashback was done so perfect and makes the episode that 11 out of 10 for me. It's just like you said, the one surprise of it being Nolan because the animators did a great job of making him look like enough like Invincible that we start the episode. I'm like, what is this? Like an alternate timeline here? Like, is that supposed to be
Yep.
Invincible? And then the dad shows up and he's like, or just says Nolan, and I'm like, no freaking way. And then he's talking about the whole history between Argyle and the betrayer. He's threatening kids, and I'm thinking, oh my god, how many kids has Nolan killed in this at the age of like 18? I'm assuming here if he's just becoming a man, So it's just so great. The parents reveal was also awesome when he's just like, "Hey, mom."
Yeah.
Just so good. That was another like mini twist of it all too, to show that it was his parents and that this is just like his initiation to becoming a true Viltrumite. Amazing, man. And of course he was getting his ass kicked, but I love the shred, the tiniest bit of humility and sympathy from his father is what makes Nolan become what he is in the present, at least. Maybe not specifically on what he is on Earth, but I think that little shred of like his father, quote unquote, saving him from his mother really touched Nolan on that level of why he can now sympathize with all these humans and Thraxians when they're all getting killed. It's just that moment meant so much and it was so brief. Like they didn't really even do anything to emphasize that. It's just his dad saves him. His mom's like, "Oh, you're just as soft like your father." And then that's really it. But then when they're disposing of the bodies, he looks at his father. I know I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, but he's like looking at his father and there's like something that hits inside of him like it's probably sadness. It's like the 1% of sadness in him and he's like, "Damn, I just lost my father who was a little nice, just like the tiniest bit nice." And that affects him and that shaped him to who he is today. And I think that is why he feels regret when he killed all those humans, why he feels regret when the Thraxians were wiped out by the other Viltrumites. Just an amazing scene, so well done. I loved it.
Damn, I never thought of that. That is a really, really good point, and I like it a
Mhm,
lot. That was the only bit of, mercy that he's ever seen
mhm.
probably. And whatever he has, whatever Nolan has in his brain that allows him to actually feel this empathy for these other creatures, didn't get it from his mom's side.
Certainly not.
That's for sure. So,
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That's a really good pickup there.
Mhm.
Yeah, you nailed everything. The scene was just you were getting pelted with information left and right, and then you learn who it is, and then you're like, "Wait a second, why is there a whole city?" And then you
That's
realize
the other thing is
because
because we knew coming into this there was only 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left, and like we're getting this shot, and I'm like, okay, so maybe these are like half Viltrumites, half something else, but then we also know there are rules about interbreeding. So I was so confused, but it all
Yep.
gets answered so quickly.
The scourge hits, man, and it hit kinda out of nowhere. We saw the poison land early in the
Mhm.
episode, but out of nowhere, the other new adult, if you wanna call it that, just starts coughing blood and, "This is good for us. We're becoming stronger." All of a sudden, that guy's coughing blood now, and everybody goes down. It I was my jaw was fucking on the floor when they're like, "How many? How many died?" And he's just like, "Billions upon billions, enough bodies to create a ring around the planet." Are you kidding me?
Talk about backstory, man. This is how you freaking do it. I had chills watching this scene, just them ringing the piles of bodies and just like you said, to be able to form the rings of the planet just from the bodies of the Viltrumites that had died from the scourge. So dark, so messed up. Absolutely was loving every bit of this. I just it was so good. The one thing that I think was the biggest question for me is like Nolan survived, like he was clearly infected. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
something different with his blood, but what was the reason why he survived when he was clearly infected? Like maybe it was curable. I have no idea, but I feel like that was the biggest question here.
Yeah, I think they said that everybody did get infected at one point. Maybe not Thrag,
Mm.
but they said, even the survivors had periods of like weakened states,
And that's how
less recovery.
Conquest we saw
sh-
lost his arm as well.
Yes, that was awesome. He was fighting the
Yeah.
Ragnars. That's where he got, I'm sure, a lot of his scars
Hmm.
too, and lost his arm. That was literally just one screenshot, one drawing explained so much. It was great.
Hmm. Honestly, what's funny too is they had their own music playing, but as they're dumping the bodies in the space, all I could think of was Rick and Morty's song. "Ah." That's what I wanted to be playing in the background. That's how it happened in my mind, but it felt very fitting for
That's
that.
it fits 100%. That I love that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
get the edit out
Somebody
there.
please
Yeah,
make
get
that.
the edit.
Yeah, yeah. They also learn, the Grand Regent says everyone who knows about the poison needs to be killed. So, that other race that they kept as slaves, I guess, they're all dead. They just went and slaughtered all of them. There's no treatment, cure, or nothing to their knowledge. And like I said, even the survivors had weakened state,
And they
and
can't breed. That was the other big kicker, is that the it seeps so deep in their DNA that they can't have normal kids really anymore, which another great
yeah,
layer of the poison that was really truly meant to wipe them out even if some had lived.
yeah. Any offspring will be inbred and inefficient. And, this is pretty much the end of our race.
Mhm.
And, the Grand Regent says, like, no, you're wrong. We will honor our fallen and rebuild at any cost. So they are more driven than ever, even though there's so few of them now.
Mhm. Great.
So Nolan is telling Alan all of this, and he also says, I wasn't just sent to Earth to conquer it. We also have, a new objective of finding compatible mates. And speaking of banging, there was a lot of banging going on this episode. It was so funny.
The reaction of Alan to hearing this is like, "You're just supposed to bang your way through the universe?" It's like, no one's like, "Not how I would put it, but yeah, kind of."
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, which is awesome.
Mhm,
And they're saying, yeah, I mean, Earth worked. He was probably gonna destroy it until Mark got his
mhm,
powers. And then he was like, once Mark got his powers, he's almost as strong as me. Okay, maybe humans are compatible.
mhm.
So that's when he was gonna take over the Earth. But as we know, things went a little differently.
Yes.
So Alan brings Nolan back to his planet Telescria. He brings him to his wife, Telia, and they meet Thaddeus, aka the Betrayer. And Nolan reveals this truth of only 50 healthy Viltrumites left, and Thaddeus takes the news weirdly because he's like, "This is great news," but he's also very somber and he's not like happy and excited. And we learn why later. And I just loved that. I love that they had him reflect on the moment, knowing that he was the betrayer and also the poisoner, if you want to call him that. So I really like the scene of the big dogs getting together, coming up with a plan, which Nolan has this plan of Viltrumite weaknesses, and we're just gonna hunt them all down. And two of the big dogs talking with Thaddeus and Nolan, and I thought it was just a good episode setup as well. Here's a list of things we're gonna go get, and let's go do it. I'm not gonna fight for you, but I will help arm you. Is Nolan's plan?
Nolan's helping out. We all know he's helping out. There's no way. The back and forth that him and Alan have is just so perfect because they're obviously so different. It makes all the comedy hit so much harder. The sex scenes were amazing with Nolan struggling to sleep, and then of course there was an extra bed the whole time.
So many empty ones.
The oblivious captain who is just terrible and then eventually succumbs to mutiny. But I really honestly was expecting Thetis or whatever his name is to say he was Argyle. I was ready for him to be like, "My name is Argyle, and I'm like deep undercover, and because you're trying to help the wrong side, I'm going to kill you here or whatever." I thought he was like deep, deep undercover, but no, he actually is the betrayer, and the poison was revealed to be the betrayer as well. Really love this. I mean, Nolan's character was already complicated, and now he's just getting even more complicated because one, he knows that his people are bad, but two, they're his people. He doesn't know how he feels about letting them just completely go extinct. The only thing that I would say to Nolan here is that you and your son can continue the Viltrum legacy. You have a son. Sure, you can see him as half human, half Viltrum, but Viltrumites aren't going to end. They'll live through Mark and to what other siblings and sons that he has. So I really wish Nolan could kind of look past like the purity aspect of the Viltrum and more so just look at his actual family and like the people that he actually cares about and view that as his legacy rather than his people.
Mhm.
Obviously, genocide is probably never a good thing.
Pretty
Yeah, it's pretty
bad,
bad.
right? Pretty bad.
But again, the Viltrumites are just such a plague on the universe. But again, we're
Mhm.
seeing it through Nolan. I guess not all Viltrumites are bad. just moral dilemmas all around here, and I love how they're setting it up. It's it's really deep because Nolan, we were ready to have him just, up in arms, let's go fight the Viltrumites, but he does have these conflicting emotions, and I think again they're kind of almost tied to his father specifically. Like when he thinks of the Viltrumites, I'm imagining that he's like picturing his father who showed him that little bit of kindness, and that part of him is why he doesn't want to kill the Viltrumites almost because he knows that they might be capable of love at some extent. But this was a great back and forth, and Nolan's just going to join the army. I mean, we know it's going to happen for sure. But I will say the other thing to it all, I kind of similar to Butcher in The Boys. I don't think Nolan is surviving the war. Like I think when the story of Invincible, the series itself, like wraps, I don't think Nolan will be alive at the end.
Yeah, I haven't thought that far ahead yet. I hope he
I hope
lives
so
after this
too, honestly.
turnaround.
But
And it's just like his turnaround poses so many questions too. It's like if one Viltrumite can turn and realize that he's
right.
bad, should we completely wipe out the rest of his race or give them a chance to realize they're wrong
And now
too?
it's like,
So
was Cecil right in wanting to keep Conquest and maybe turn him good? Was maybe Conquest wasn't the first or best Viltrumite to get?
too far
Yeah.
gone. He's too
Okay.
far
Okay.
gone. There's no turning
Okay.
him around. He'll whisper in your ear as he,
Eat your heart out.
puts
I'm
you
gonna
in your
split you in half
yeah.
and eat your heart.
He's insane. But yeah, I mean, I think Thetis takes the news interestingly well too. I mean, not interestingly well. He takes it interestingly
Mhm.
because, like we already talked about, did I really want to exterminate all of Viltrum? Like that was my goal, but now that I got that close, is that what I wanted to do? And then I got to bring up one quick sentence he has, which is when he meets Nolan, he's like, "Do you want me to perform the two lock pull? Because I already did it for Alan. I don't really feel like doing it again." And they're like, "Is that when you pull your beard off?" And I was like, I can't believe they had a name for it. That is so
And it
funny.
explains so much too, because I feel like in the moment when it happened, we were talking like, was that fake the whole time? So it sounds like they just are
Yeah,
incredibly fast at growing beards. And so he just actually is ripping every hair out, which is incredible.
so
Yeah.
funny.
The Tulak pull. That was great.
Yeah. And meanwhile, everybody on this planet is like, we don't like people with mustaches.
Mhm.
So Nolan's walking by and he
The
does. I
reactions
love
were
that the
great.
mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a mustache is a sign of evil is so good. Where are okay, so we got our plan, right? We are on our ship, the Venture, with the captain, insane, you already talked about. First stop, Space Racer and his Infinity Ray, found by the coordinates that Nolan left in his children's book for Mark.
Mhm.
Pretty cool.
I just Space Eraser is really cool. It's obviously the weapon that makes the man in this situation in my head. Although
Mhm.
he was actually, going toe to toe with Allen and Nolan with his fists for a while there. But that Infinity Ray, man, if something like that actually existed, I that could cause some real issues. The fact that it
And
just shoots like a laser that infinitely goes, the physics behind that are so whack. But
yeah. It just reminded me of, Morty dropping a
yes,
lightsaber
yeah.
and it just going down through
Well,
everything. It's like,
you
"Fuck, we
fire this
can't
in
stop
any
it."
direction, God knows how many like people or things out there you're killing and
Yeah.
destroying.
You're gonna hit a planet
Oh yeah.
probably. I mean, infinite planets out there, so, and he was really I mean, he lived there for 100 years with no food or water and was ready to go too, so I'm like, "Hell yeah, get this guy on our side," and I love the line of, "Ugh, was dead for 100 years, not
Yeah.
1,000. I'm not that hungry."
I um I was actually a little at first disappointed that a simple I'm sorry was able to turn Space Racer from you've left me down here for 100 years into I'll join your side. But the re-emphasis of it of Nolan apologizing throughout the episodes kind of really hit me as like these people are genuinely shook to their core that they have a Viltrumite in the first place saying the words I'm sorry. So it
Totally.
the weight of the I'm sorry in just like our day to day might not mean a lot since some people don't genuinely mean it, but like for Nolan to say it, he means it, and I honestly, it's really powerful that just those words are able to sway races of people to fight for the cause when he's the one out here, like possibly the reason for their extinction in the first place, you know?
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
crazy. Like, you would have think they saw him, like, get down on his knees and
It's basically
bow
what he did for
just
them,
be
yeah.
yeah, just by saying sorry,
Mhm.
that's out unheard of, so really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, space racers like, "Alright, point me in the direction of this status or
Mhm.
whatever, and I'll think about it," which, we learn he's totally on board later. Next stop is I didn't get the name for them, but these beetles whose
Mhm.
shell has a compound that makes Viltrumites weak. They just scoop up a couple of them, and he makes Alan pick them up. And this is the first instance of, oh, what is this, revenge for something? And no one's like, what are you talking about? And then just
Great, loved it.
so funny. Yeah, nothing really too much about these beetles. They were the less interesting of everything that we went through
Yeah,
here.
for sure.
One another one that was really quick that we actually didn't even get were some intelligent beasts that went extinct because someone moved their planet a little closer to the sun and all the water evaporated. I'm just the interesting ways to kill
Yes.
planets is
And Alan kind of
so good.
emphasizes it too with every time he's talking about how he's killed these
Yeah.
people. He's like, I think I'm not gonna be shocked, but then I just end up being shocked.
Yeah, you guys are terrible. You guys did unspeakable things. Um, we got a quick shot of them, and I was really upset that they didn't live anymore because they looked
Yes,
really cool. They kind of looked like Arceus
mhm,
a little bit,
mhm,
and I was like, "Oh, they're deadly and intelligent. I want to see that." But nope, we just see bones.
yeah.
Next up is recruit the Geldarians, who the Viltrumites hired the Kresh to go and wipe out this whole civilization. But they were resilient and they survived, but they won't help. But maybe one of the Geldarians on Earth might, which we learn later that this person's name is Tech Jacket. And Pate me intrigued, man. I am interested in this guy.
Yeah, the only thing I was wondering is if we had seen this guy. I didn't do enough research to know if I didn't want to look up anything just in case for potential spoilers, but I just in my head was curious if we had maybe run into this guy at some point already because there's been a lot of times where superheroes in like bulk have been needed. I think when Doc Seismic in season 3 it was like running rampant on the US Capitol and he'd kind of like captured all the heroes. Like I wonder if we had seen shots of him there. But yeah, certainly excited to meet this new character from outer space.
Yeah, really cool. We also one character that we meet but we can't recruit is Battle Beast. So they go to his home planet to try to find him, and the way they explained it was so cool. They were like, "Our champion left long
Yeah.
ago, but if you want to find him, just follow the violence." I was like, "That's so cool."
I love Battle Beast. I think the last we saw of him was helping Nolan and Alan escape. He got flung into space, but then picked up by someone. I don't know if we know exactly who picked him up.
Unfortunate soul because the whole crew died as soon as he unthawed in their
Yeah.
ship. So
But yeah, absolutely love Battle Beast. It's cool to know that he is actually like the champion of their people, like that he is actually considered the strongest of them all. It's that was really great.
okay, and then we get the biggest obstacle, which is the Ragnars. How do they, take care of these guys? Oh, they put a giant disc up to block their sun and freeze their planet. So why they didn't just push the planet a little bit farther away?
Yeah, right. They
I
didn't
don't
want to get
know. But
repetitive. They needed new ways of torture. They didn't want to just keep pushing planets here.
yeah, I made this really big disc and I kind of want to do something with it. So, all right, let's do it. So this was actually it got pretty intense here. Their goal was to just slightly move the disc, unthaw them just a little bit, and then take them onto the ship while they were still incapacitated. But idiot captain completely blew the disc up, and all the Ragnar start attacking. Alan saves Nolan at one point. Nolan tells they try to fly away. The gravity on this planet is insane. That's why Ragnars are so strong in the first place. So it's hard for them to fly away. And Nolan gets grabbed, brought back down, tells Alan to go, but Alan's like, "I need you, man. I need you for the war. I'm not fighting for you." Yes, you are, dude. What are you talking about? So I love these two together. And even after this whole situation happens, that's when Nolan comes clean about, I'm struggling with the idea of destroying my entire race. And I'm sorry, Alan gives Nolan a hug here. So Alan saves Nolan in the first place. After turning Nolan, he saves
Mhm.
him and then is compassionate with him and gives him a hug. So I cannot believe where Nolan is at right
You would
now.
have punched my head off a season ago if I did this. And Alan's really breaking him down, man. How can you not love Alan? He's definitely one of the greatest characters of this show. And yeah, the dynamic between these two is so good. I don't know if anyone in the universe could have done such a good job of breaking Nolan's walls down as Alan, to be honest. Like if anyone was locked in that prison cell with him, albeit like Mark and Debbie, Nolan's still dead. You know, he's given up on
Yeah.
life. Alan's the only creature in the entire universe that could have done this. So cheers him up even when Nolan is having regrets about committing genocide against his people. But like I said, this is where it really hit me of, you have a legacy. Mark even says, in the beginning, at the end of season one, when he's getting his ass beat by you, what do you have in 500 years? I'll still have you. So it's, family dynamic. It
Mhm.
should power him through it. I I can't wait till Nolan comes home because it's going to be so weird of how everyone on the planet is going to be against him except for basically Mark. Like Debbie doesn't care
Yeah.
for him anymore. Probably she probably does and she doesn't want to, but like she's still going to blow up, So it'll be so crazy
Oh,
to
yeah.
see what it's like when he actually does make his return to Earth.
And that's what, happened. Thaddeus revealed to Nolan that he was the one that sent the scourge to Viltrum in the first place. Nolan freaks out, almost kills him at one point. But then he says, "You know what? Screw this. I'm leaving. I'm going to get Mark because if this scourge is out here and this poison is still a possibility, I'm getting Mark and I'm making sure that he's safe."
Yeah, I think that's the smart move from Nolan. Of course, Mark and Oliver are both going to be susceptible to this, whatever it is, and
Mhm.
because they say it's a last resort, don't you know that means it's gonna be used at some point?
Totally. It's totally going to be
Yeah.
used. And then end credit scene. This is my first end credit scene because I forgot the first one. So imagine my shock when I see Conquest returning to face his punishment. And this was the reveal of Lord Thrag. And man, this was so cool. Only because we've seen Conquest, right? We've seen what he's about, how he talks to Mark. He's literally bowing before this guy to speak before his sire, saying, please make my death painful so that others may learn and grow stronger from it. So, such a wild thing to
So
say, so
wild.
crazy. And Thrag says, I will not reward failure. You have work to do yet. And the reveal happens, and I'm like, is Thrag Nolan's brother? Is it a different
Right.
Nolan? Like they look so similar. What is going on? But you could tell this guy is just gonna be a problem.
The fact that Conquest, who ravaged Earth and without Eve's help would have killed everyone and made Earth
Mhm.
its bitch. He had scared puppy dog eyes walking into that room, man. He was terrified. I cannot wait for Thrag. And seeing this shot made me think, how the hell are we getting out of this? I'm thinking of like the damage that Conquest does, and this guy is just bowing to Thrag. What is going to happen when
Mhm.
just all 50 of these Viltrumites show up on Earth? Like, how do we, even with the army we've assembled, even with the Infinity Ray, even if Nolan were to fight on our side with Mark, how the fuck are we getting out of this? This is just one way to introduce the big bad of a TV series. And it's generally moments like this that make me feel like Invincible's A tier, S tier, just one of the best shows because I just need injections. I need this so bad to see how this all plays out.
Yeah. I mean, I cannot wait to get to when the battle is on its way and these guys finally meet. I cannot wait for
Mhm.
that. It's gonna be so good. All right, jumping into episode 3. I gotta get some air. We are picking up, after episode 1 here. So we got the whole Viltrumite, Alan, Paul, Paul,
You
not
just want to throw
Paul.
yourself in the group.
Alan.
That's all.
Yeah. I was gonna say now we go from Alan and Nolan to Paul and
Mhm.
Debbie talking about houses and stuff like that. So a little less exciting, but uh, I figured I'd just put this in the top, get it out of the way because they kind of pop up in random scenes here and there. But I don't know where they're going with this, with Paul trying to get Debbie to move out, move in together. I don't know if they're just showing what it's like to be a mother of a superhero going through the everyday struggles. I don't know if there's another motive. There's this weird, sketchy side to Paul that I don't know why I feel that. But I made the theory last season. I'll say it again. There's a chance in my mind that this is multi Paul, the villain, in the future or from a different dimension, and he's coming to take his revenge on Mark by seducing his mother.
I,
That is totally what is
so
happening.
I'm not bought into the theory, but I will agree with you that for some reason these episodes made it feel like Paul was scheming something else. Sure, there were the moments of excitement where he was offering the idea to Debbie of like, let's move in together. But then he also like kind of goes back on it at points and he feels like confused or scared. Yeah, it was really weird. I was definitely getting those vibes of he has something else on his mind, but I don't know if that's again just maybe he feels like he's going too fast. I think, but I feel like all of this is for the purpose though of making Debbie finally fall in love again, only to have Nolan show back up on Earth and her be like, oh, where am I going in my love life? You know, like my old husband's there that I
That's
had the kid with, or do I choose my new non super powered, non villain husband, you know?
That is a great point because Nolan last season said, I think I miss my wife.
Right.
And we were talking about could they ever get back together? I don't think so. That's actually a really good point. I feel like that's totally where this is going now that you say that. And, do I stay with schmuck Paul or go back to my superhero, maybe super villain
Yeah.
husband? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not my favorite storyline, of course. I mean, the whiplash of going from Conquest to now back to Debbie and the do I want to live with this guy? Yeah, it's like, yeah, negative whiplash, but it is setting up all for that. I think big breakthrough.
So Mark is dealing with killing Russ this episode. He was sad and depressed already. Now he went and he saved the world, but killed a seemingly innocent man. So how do you deal with it? He talks. He can't talk to Eve because Eve is freaking out about her powers. Can't even bother to be near her phone. But Cecil is there. Donald brings Mark to Cecil. Cecil saying, don't make that decision by yourself. Don't make that decision alone. Let me make it for you so you can sleep at night. I'm the guy that doesn't sleep at night. I gave up sleeping a long time ago. So it seemingly was a good conversation. And then Sinclair walks in to apologize. Mark didn't take that great. But Cecil, I don't know, man. He seems like he has good intentions.
This is the Cecil that is my freaking boy. He said all the right things, it feels like here. And sure, the Sinclair show up, maybe had felt planned from Mark's perspective, but it was a great moment and a one that Mark needed to see, whether it was forced or not. Obviously, it wasn't, but he's going through this thought process of do I just kill villains before I give them a chance to act them again? And Sinclair, as of right now, is showing that he is living proof that you don't necessarily have to kill villains. You can they can serve their punishment, they can come out changed. Obviously, comparing Sinclair to like Conquest, who feels way more gone, is impossible and like to rationalize and it's hard in those moments in combat to know if this person is going to ever change. But
Mhm.
it was a good moment for Sinclair, I think, as a person. I was really proud of him because he felt like he was kind of being a little sketchy too. I think he had been referenced a little bit of like working too much and uh, some other sketchy things of like, you're doing things that I'm not asking of you, maybe something along those lines. But regardless, I was having doubts of Sinclair, but it seems like it was more so maybe nerves of having to confront Invincible here. Um, so I
Mhm.
really like this for Sinclair.
Yeah.
I didn't really like Sinclair all that much, but I have more respect for him. and Cecil, of course, my boy. Up until he
Yeah.
hides, he doesn't tell the big info that he should have here. But
Yeah, yeah, which, he says to Donald, "If you want my job that
yeah,
badly, just say
that was
so,"
funny.
which was a great line. Yeah, this Sinclair scene's interesting because that's a theme of the episode of, do we give these bad guys a second chance and try to rehabilitate them? Because, uh uh, I almost said Rudy again. Rex has a moment, where he's in the shower and vomits up a sequid that almost takes
Mm,
him down, if not for Monster Girl. So he has a moment where he's like, "What are we doing? Maybe we do need to kill these people because look at Doc Seismic. Look at the sequids. We give them an inch, like we give them a second chance, and all of a sudden they're back and stronger than ever. And eventually we're gonna die. We've been getting lucky this whole
mhm,
time. Like maybe we do need to kill them." So Rex is saying that. Sinclair's coming in showing that you can get rehabilitated. And then on top of that, we get the Flaxen attack too. So it's just like, and to get us to the Flaxen attack, there was only a few scenes. Mark and Eve, they're talking to each other. They're leaning on each other right now because they're both hurting,
mhm,
but they're there for each other, which is
mhm,
nice. And then Eve goes to see Rex, hoping that he can help with her powers, like he helped with Monster Girls. He was like, "Hey, it took a year for me to figure out her stuff, so I'm not promising anything, but I have faith that we can figure it out." But as he's saying that, the Flaxen alarm goes off, and just another villain that we've seen before, but it's not like old, and it is recycled, I guess, but like in a new way.
mhm.
So it's fun. I love when the villains come back.
It is a perfect embodiment of the speech that they were just talking about of every time we don't kill someone, they come back stronger. And honestly, it was almost implied that Nolan had fully wiped them out, I feel like in season 1 maybe, but they've just keep coming back. And yeah, it's just they're the themes that are they're paralleling and lining up at points that are so good and just really make you question these decisions. The Flaxens coming
Mhm.
back is definitely something I wasn't ready for. Should have seen it coming. But it's just like you said, sure they come back bigger and better and stronger, but like the storyline, because they are, makes it feel so fresh every time, and it's not just like a recycled event that's happening over. We get these adaptions from the enemy, and we have to learn to conquer them, and it's all so well done. And of course, the big part of it is at the end with Rex now taking the invincible route of he just wants to end this all right here, and that kind of bites him and Monster Girl in the butt specifically.
Yeah, straight off of that, realization he had in the shower that, maybe we do need to end these guys for good, which I'm on your side. When Nolan got stuck over there on the other side of the portal and then flew home, I thought he destroyed their entire planet, but
I
maybe,
guess now that I
maybe
think about it
they
too,
just
he did leave at least like there were at least specifically two alive. He's like holding a spaceship and he's like, this is Earth isn't your planet to conquer. And then so I guess he doesn't, yeah, fully
yeah.
wipe them out now that I'm remembering that scene.
But, what Nolan did, they prepared for because when they attacked, they had giant mech
Mhm.
suits that were basically holding Mark back. Mark couldn't do anything. So, like you said, the plan from Rex was find the emitter and destroy it, and then watch them die from old age. Last time they had little gadgets. This time it's one big emitter. So find that, and they're easy peasy done. But they are taking human prisoners too, which is something
Mhm.
new and a complication. But they were able to save them. But like you said, Rex and Monster Girl stuck on the other side of the portal. They can't exactly fly through space just like Nolan did. So will they get home? Are they gonna kill that entire enemy race? Are they gonna somehow make them allies and the Flaxens are gonna join the fight against them, the Viltrumites? I doubt it. I just came up with that on the spot because Rex and Monster Girl are so charming. But yeah, who knows what's going to happen? They could be dead. Cecil's pissed. He just lost two of his best
I
guys.
love the added line of Cecil when he says, or someone asked, like, why can't we just open a portal back up? And Cecil's like, don't you think we've been doing that since they've landed here? Like,
Yeah.
again, Cecil. contingencies. This goes into that contingency thing of the superheroes. He's always ready, or at least tries to be as ready as he can be. And this is just something that's eluded him for so long. He still can't crack the portal down. But I just love that throwaway line. It just feels like that added so much more like depth to this whole situation of like, because I was thinking it too. It's like, oh, why don't we just like boom tube ourselves like right back over? They've been doing it this whole time for years now. Like, why don't we? And Cecil immediately just calls it out. So I absolutely love that. And I even in my head, like in the beginning of the invasion too, when they're talking about the super antenna, I'm like, it's got to be behind the portal if they haven't seen it yet. And lo and behold, it was. Little did I know that it would be impossible to come back. And that's why Cecil was like so emphasizing during his conversation with Britt, do not cross that portal, because Cecil knows that if they cross that portal and it closes, there's no way as of right now that we can get them back immediately. So really love this. Definitely a huge cliffhanger for us as the viewers. Not sure either if both of them are going to come out of here. I would love for both of them to come out of here, but like I definitely can see something of like Monster Girl sacrificing and then Rex becomes a changed person after all that, or vice versa. I'm just emphasizing they both come back alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so because they're the best. And, like you said, there's, all different futures and iterations of timelines where Eve was still alive. I don't know how
We
much
haven't seen
stake you could
Monster
put in
Girl in
that.
those, I don't think. We definitely saw Rex and we saw Eve.
Oh my, oh my God. I hope they're alive so badly. So Flaxens are at least not a worry at the moment for right
Mhm.
now. We can jump over to this Titan storyline. He's back. He's still in control, after taking down Mr. Liu. And he's talking to Machine Head here. They meet up in a bar, and Machine Head's just warning him that Liu is still alive. And I'm saying Liu, I meant Liu,
Mhm.
is still alive and is coming for him. Machine Head is safe because the Order gives him protection. Maybe you join the Order again, Titan. Who knows? But having Machine Head back on my screen is such a good thing. He is so funny.
He is definitely, of all the, we'll say, villains of the week that Invincible has introduced us to, he is my favorite. He is just always such a presence on the screen. Honestly, while I was watching it, how I was feeling watching him is how I was feeling during, Buggy in the live action One Piece. Like those two have such a screen presence for me, because I know we're going to be hitting some serious villainy stuff, but at the same time some really funny comedy beats as well. So Machine Head, definitely one of my favorite, if not my favorite, like villain of the weeks that we've been introduced to.
Yeah, he stole our hearts.
Mhm.
Titan is with his family in the park when he is attacked by what's his name, Magnatech,
Magnet
right?
tag or
And
something like that. Yeah.
what a badass! He's
Dude, that was so
basically like a
cool. Yeah.
ninja samurai Magneto.
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Are you kidding me? What a cool design!" I'm so mad that you died here, which I assume he died
Yes.
because he says, you know, Mr. Liu sends his regards, basically, and Titan ends up just beating his face in at the end of the day.
Sometimes some of the gore just hits a little different than other times. And this is one of those moments where those bodyguards are getting pieced up, and I'm just like, holy fucking shit, this is crazy.
Yeah,
It's not just, buildings collapsing on someone where we don't even get to see everything. It's the very vivid dismembering of people, and the chick totally got cut in half, and I was not ready for that either. So yeah, Magnetag,
yeah.
although he's dead, totally badass ability and design, was super. He was doing damage even with Titan in his rock form. He was still breaking through. So he's strong.
Yeah.
I'll give him credit.
And Titan in his rock form just getting hit with like 100 of those metal shards, but still going, never stopping. I was like, that's pretty
Voice
tight.
actor was
He's a strong.
cooking there too, with just the
Yeah.
rage and screaming. I was feeling every bit of that emotion.
Don't mess with my family.
Hmm.
So Titan and Isotope kind of discuss what to do, and they end up calling for Mark. Isotope kind of says maybe we should join the Order again, but Titan's like, no, I'm not doing that. I have an idea. But they don't get Mark, they get Oliver. So it was a couple funny scenes, Oliver flying Titan saying it was bullshit when Mark
Yeah.
did this, and it's even more
Yeah.
bullshit now. It's so funny, but they Titan directs him directly to the front door of Mr. Liu. And they get in a fight right away. But somehow Titan is like, "Yeah, you go fight the giant
Yeah.
dragon. I'll take the Great Wall." It's like,
You
okay, that's
wanted to
easy.
come here for Mr. Liu. You take Mr. Liu and then have Oliver handle the Great Wall, which again, we said it last season, amazing name.
He's such a cool character
Yeah.
for a character that doesn't freaking speak at
Yeah.
all and is barely
He's
on.
great.
But no, he's a badass because yeah, he's holding his own. He's a
Mhm.
bodyguard of Mr. Liu, taking care of his body. You see him, you know, save it from the falling building before eventually Mark comes, helps save the day, and Mr. Liu is like, "We got to get out of here." So Great Wall, go grab the body, and then they fly off
I
together.
love how
That's
there's
pretty
there's
cool.
still levels to this shit. Like Oliver at the beginning's like, "Yeah, I can do anything Mark does, even better." Not yet. Not yet,
Yeah.
kid. Mark just came in here. And I love that we see too that Mark is also growing in terms of strength. Nice reminder that he's not always getting his ass kicked.
Oh, it's coming from the rage and
Yes.
depression inside of him. But right after Mr. Liu is sent packing, Mark sees Titan, and this was not good because Mark is an angry boy.
Mm,
Mark is not happy and just starts pounding his face in, saying, like, "Don't mess with my family." And Titan's like, "I was trying to save my family." And Oliver is the one that eventually gets him to stop punching. But, you know, who knows how far Mark would have gone there.
I was thinking the same thing. If Oliver is not there, is Titan just dead? Mark's got some issues.
Yeah, he's working through some
Mhm.
shit, but I don't think that rock armor would have been enough.
No.
Yeah. I mean, because from Mark's perspective, he's coming in, he's seeing Oliver like all cut up. This dragon definitely is hurting him and he doesn't know what's going on, but he definitely at least should have asked a question
Yeah,
before he
maybe.
rearranged his
Right.
face. So because of this, I think that Titan knows that his family isn't really safe. And even he's not safe after that beating from Mark.
Mhm.
I feel like, oh, maybe I'm not as tough as I thought I was. So he ends up joining the order, and wouldn't you know it, so did Mr. Liu.
There.
And Machine Head and Isotope, they kind of played both of them. It seems like Isotope was kind of in on it, which he's a side character, but we said last season, one of the coolest powers, just bringing the Great Wall, TPing him up to the sky and then watching him fall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's a good lieutenant, but it seems somehow Machine Head is in charge, and now Mr. Liu and uh, Titan are just on the board. They're part of the
Is
order
there
now.
ever a world where the Order helps us against the Viltrum Empire?
That's a great point. I would say
I feel like having
totally.
a
If
dragon at full health would be pretty nice.
Yeah, like if you come up to Machine Head and say, "Dude, how are you gonna make so much effing money if the world
Right.
is
Yeah,
destroyed?" Right?
exactly.
So come on, fight for your people.
Suicide
I would
Squad
love that.
incoming.
I would absolutely love that.
Mhm.
So we got one last end credit scene, but we already talked about it. I don't know what else there is to say. Little baby Mark, just gonna be the strongest freaking baby of all time. That's all I'm
We
picturing.
get the shot of Eve in the bathroom from, like, outside the house or whatever, and in my head, I'm like, "God damn it, how did I not figure out she was pregnant?" And then they show the pregnancy test, and I'm like, "Fuck, that makes so much sense." But, yeah, I don't know how I feel about the storyline in general of Eve being pregnant. I guess it feels fast. I don't know. I feel like Mark's still in college. I get it all, but uh, just something that I wasn't, I guess, really expecting to happen this early in Invincible. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I guess there was a couple themes that were kind of leading to it. Debbie moving out of the house, we're seeing the height chart of the kids and realizing they're basically grown adults and out now. Oliver aging quickly, and they already had Debbie already made comments about Mark and Eve banging like all the time, which I thought was a weird thing for a mom to say. But yeah, I mean, it is moving fast, but at the same time, I guess it's been a long time since we first met Mark when he was in high school. A lot has happened.
Yeah, and if
And
her powers aren't working, and maybe she'd been using, like her versions of condoms with Mark, and then one of the condoms, became goo, and it's just like, oh, wasn't ready for
Yeah.
that.
That yep, yep, she messed up on the molecule arrangement
Yeah.
there. That's funny. When I saw this, I thought they were I saw Eve in the bathroom, like, with her head in her hands. I thought this was going on, like, the conversation with Eve's dad and Mark, and I thought they were, like, splitting, and there was gonna be a wedge
Hmm.
kinda driven in between them because they're both going through so much and so sad, and they can't handle it. But no, it's just something else to add to everything else they're going on to, but there's cause for celebration. I think it complicates a lot of things, but end of the day, this could be the best thing that's
It's
happened.
just still so hard to pin down if it's the child that's causing Eve's issues because, like she goes to fight Conquest, obviously dies, resurrects, blasts him. And then after all of that, it's the nighttime. Her and Mark have the victory sex, and her clothes are already melting at that point. So it's like, was she pregnant during that whole fight?
Mm,
But then if she
that's a good
was,
point.
Conquest definitely killed that baby because he just put an arm through her stomach. But like, like so
Yeah,
it's so hard to understand if it actually is the child or if it's something with her
you
powers.
just changed my mind.
Yeah, so maybe
You
that's what I meant to
totally
bring up
just changed my
earlier. Is like,
mind.
so I thought it's tough, man. It's tough.
And let's yeah, I mean, yeah, I was gonna say unless Mark's that good that he got her pregnant that quick
Right.
before the
Yeah.
clothes hit the ground, but they didn't even
But I guess
yeah, like,
maybe,
they were still
but maybe also if she was pregnant during the conquest fight, like maybe molecularly creating a baby
she's
from
her
nothing like could also have the impact. But I'm totally expecting this
I'd
baby
say
to
that.
be super strong. I mean, in Marvel comics, Franklin Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Sue Storm, Mrs. Invisible, have a
Yeah.
baby, and it is generally considered that he is the strongest being in like all of Marvel history, and that's kind of what I'm
Oh,
expecting
yeah.
here from this child as well.
100%, and I doubt we'll get him this season. It just seems like that would be really
Mhm.
quick, but at the same time, I hope they do. I hope they skip forward a little bit and we can see our little family and be happy again instead of
With
depressed.
time travel, we really can see him possibly or them in the future, whether it's a boy or a girl. So it's always up for grabs for that. But any final thoughts here before I get us into the outro?
It's so good to be back. This show's so good.
I genuinely am obsessed with this show. So, yes, I cannot wait to be here week to week with you. That's going to be it for our season 4, episode 1 to 3 coverage of Invincible. Be sure to hit subscribe to get the rest of the season coverage of Invincible. We also have 2 other podcast feeds that we're going to ask you to check out. The first being the core podcast. We're currently covering Monarch Legacy of Monsters on there, soon to be covering Our Friends and Neighbors, I believe is the one. And then we also have the Final Form podcast, which just is covering Jujutsu Kaisen. That is me, Kyle, and friend of the pod, Alki. And then lastly, just be sure to check out all of our social medias at Bingetown TV on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Discord. Discord is going to be the best way for you to reach out to us and talk to us about everything that you're watching with us. We have different channels for all the shows that we're currently covering. And so we have lots of people every day joining us, talking with us about their theories, their ideas. We're going to have one set up for Invincible. So definitely join us in that. I'll be trying to monitor the Discord for that and getting your guys' theories and thoughts on the series so far. But that's going to be everything. Once again, this right here is the Binge Empire podcast. And thank you so much for listening.